Welcome to the New Stack again. I'm Alex Williams, founder, and I have a question for you. Now, this question comes up a lot. How can we make life simpler for the developer? How can it be less complex? There's a lot of people working on that, but they face a big problem. The rest of the world is getting ever more complex. The systems those developers use are overly complex. So what do? Well, three main themes emerge. Services get built in isolation of each other and they can conflict without anyone knowing. We see more errors in production, and progressive delivery becomes ever more relevant. And what are we seeing now? Those good old memories of those days of monolithic architectures. Oh, those reflections.
When we started the company, everyone was building Rails monoliths, basically.
That's Rob Zuber, CTO at CircleCI. He and his co-founders started CircleCI 10 years ago when Docker was an internal engine for .cloud. Today, the trend is to lessen the complexity for the developer, but therein lies the paradox. As things get simpler for the developer, the system becomes more complex and more difficult to predict. Multiple developers may be working on services at the same time, and that may be a good thing. But you have to know how these services are affecting each other. Because if you don't know how they're affecting each other, that's when the trouble begins.
Some of the issues that we're seeing people run into are not occurring until all their software is in production.
Which brings us to why CircleCI bought Vamp earlier this year. Vamp focuses on what it calls continuous orchestration, which integrates artificial intelligence and machine learning. Kubernetes is a container orchestration platform which requires a continuous delivery approach. But with so many services being deployed, there's a need for continuous orchestration of the services so the code works all the way into production. Vamp uses AI and ML to do automatic rollbacks. And what this means is they can offer services to small subsets of users so they can test it out, see if it works, see if there are bugs in production. That makes things for a little bit more, let's say, less stress on the software engineer.
Software is in production, but I'm only allowing a small segment of customers to see it, so I can validate. People use terms like canaries or blue-green deploys, those sorts of things, so that I can validate that it's good on a small subset. And that might be, I've made a change that makes the system more confusing, so fewer people are clicking, like something from a business level, or a query is taking a really long time and the performance has gone down. So I don't want to put it in front of 100% of my customers until I've seen that it's working for a small subset.
But tell me, what's next? Well, for now, observability is definitely rising in importance. With so many services getting built at the same time, there's a subsequent loss of network interactions, and that can be trouble. That's when the testing in production becomes a real priority. When you need to be making sure there are no bugs for those users out there, you need that real-time observability. When there's so many services involved, how do you define the actual application?
We keep asking this question, what is the application now, right? It is the sum of services, maybe. Like what I, as a consumer of an application, right? I go to a website. I don't care that there's a whole bunch of services in the background making that happen. I just want the value that I'm getting as a customer.
But really, it doesn't matter if it's an app or a website. It's still a bunch of services working together, and they work together over the network layer. And so if you lose track of what's in the network layer, you're going to have some problems. And this is when the concept of progressive delivery becomes really important. So that's why you want to keep things as simple as possible. You want to deliver things progressively, so you're not trying to do too much at once. It can get pretty complex. You can have services talking to each other that maybe shouldn't be talking to each other. You may have services overlapping. So do you want to do this in one big release to tens of millions of people potentially? No. You want to break it down to small subsets of users. And that really is the essence of progressive delivery.
You could consider the network layer to be part of the program in the way that you've just described it, right? Because that's what at the end we're shipping to our customers, is the interaction between all these services. And the other interesting that came to me as you were pointing that out is with all of these APIs from vendors, it's not just our collection of services, it's our collection of services plus the hundreds in some cases of third parties that we're integrating into that thing. So understanding in order to deliver you this news site, I'm pulling authentication from over here and some background information from over here and some advertising from over there. And all of that has to be working together. And I need to see how it's all working together in order to make sure that I'm delivering it to you effectively.
Let's sum it up. Number one, services get built in isolation, and that can mean conflicts down the road. Number two, more services getting built at the same time means more errors in production. And number three is the result. Progressive delivery becomes more and more relevant in these types of situations. Release to low-risk users, and if there is a bug, roll it back. Thanks for watching, everyone. As always, like and subscribe. Follow us on your social media platforms of choice. And remember, you're always welcome at thenewstack.io.